Hi, guys, and welcome back again to another episode of Words with Al. So, in this episode, we are going a bit further into this development and looking at another cluster. We're moving a bit further in time so that we can connect you guys so that no one thinks that this is hocus pocus, but that we really look at it and see that it is truly linked. Yes. So, this whole presentation will be about, well, another consonant, really. But we have to go through, as you notice now, we have to go through all the consonants, all the sound clusters, because what we will find is pretty much what we expect: a connection, clear and obvious connection between us and the old people that we once were. So that is it. What else? This cluster, the fa, fe, fi, fo, fu, fu sound phonosemantic cluster, stands as a linguistic map of moral action, speech, and belief. And we will see that together. Um, what we will also see is, well, I will go through the other ones as we go along, but there's much to go through. There's a lot of work to do, but hopefully my little discovery can initiate some real progress in this field, and that it is picked up because now it is really no way back. We cannot move back now, because what we will discover is that these our languages are so connected. It is ridiculous. It truly is. And as I said, and I will have to state it again if you're new, the only reason I can do this linguistic journey is because I speak Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, a little bit of German, a little bit of Dutch, and a little bit of, well, not a little bit, quite a lot of bit, quite a lot of bit of English. And then I speak the northern dialect of Kosovo. Okay. So that is the one that was mostly influenced by the northern Europeans before the Slavic migration. Yes, because the Slavic people did not occupy Europe during antiquity, and we know that, right? There were some, definitely, absolutely, because well, people left for various of reasons, but what we see is that even the Slavic languages in the end are connected to, well, the Indo-European ones. So either they spoke Indo-European before they came back and met everyone else in Europe before, or they learned speech from the ones who lived in Europe, that the Romans and the Germans, right? Because they had already been indoctrinated into this speech. Yes, we mustn't forget that. Again, going back to how the Mediterranean Sea is pretty much the cradle of mankind's civilization. Okay. But yes, so let's go on. Obviously, I have a lot to say here, and there is much to discover together. But let's begin. So the introduction. This presentation explores the fa, fe, fi, fo, fu, fu cluster, focusing on its recurring themes across Albanian and Indo-European languages. These sounds encode systems of moral energy, speech, belief, and consequence. Indeed. Now, this is the thing. We mustn't forget that these people, well, yeah. So, as I said in the previous ones, the southern speaking Albanian branch went to Italy and became the Italians, we see this tying up. We see that there were not that many actual spoken languages, but rather variants of the same language. The further back in time we go, they were all pretty much intelligible. They were just pronounced differently. They were beginning to be pronounced differently because speech had become an automated process. But it wasn't always that. And language, as we know it today, didn't exist for quite a long time. We only had words for things, either for things in our close proximity, or we had words for things in existence that existed, but not a proper language that we know today. That had to be developed with our intellect and our imagination, which had to, so the imagination had to go through, the religious part had to go through imagination, whilst the intellect, whilst this, yes, the scientific part had to go through the intellect. Yes, we needed both. Both these worlds are part of this one intelligence that is growing, and that is me and you as we speak. So this whole journey for me is about discovering man and woman's journey. Yes. So I have no self-interest here. The only self-interest that I have is finding out how what our mom and dad once did and what they were thinking when they did it and what happened to them. What happened to these people? And these people were, well, they wrote their stories in words because our languages are the oldest story, the oldest unwritten story. Okay. There are older stories, but not really. Well, there are. It's still the same one, but then we're speaking about life forms and not this human form that we now are. Yes, you. If you have seen some of my videos, you know that I like to connect mankind to all the other animals as well because we are all just various life forms. Okay. Yes, that is what we are. Okay. So this is yes, that is what it does. And then we go on phonosemantic overview. So what we find is that in Albanian language we find a lot of words, and they all pretty much end up with the same, well, being the root word from very many European words. So, for instance, in fa you find fai, fal, um, fat. Well, you find very many words, and they all mean exactly the same words as these ones. They do. We also, the Albanian language also has fat, but they say fat and not fate. And forgive is fai, and sorry, forgive is fal, and fault is fai. But we also have actually even, well, it might be, we will see if this R and O were interchangeable in some dialects, because to speak fall, fall, fale, we may have some dialects that have used A instead of O for for speech. We will see that these root sounds pertain to very many ideas that will later form the new words for other European civilizations, or well, identities, national identities, England, Germany, and so on, where all these European languages would arise from these ideas. And then the reason why we know that too is because these are actually, this is, these monosyllables here are that word. Fa means um, to speak, to forgive, to blame or accuse, and then it's also your fate. It is all within that moral consequence. Okay. And then we have fe. Fe is literally faith. So this is faith. Even, but this is, you can't find it in a shorter form. And belief, yeah, fe. There are more words here as well. We will look at it, but it mostly pertains to faith or belief, something that is in the mind. Fe, yes. All of them actually are very, you will, well, according to me, well, we will see now, but okay, let's not digress. And then this important fee. Fee is a very important word. We will see this in Greek, fee, and we will see this everywhere else. Where over there, where well, um, it will also be the seed, right? Seed and the symbol, fee, shifra. Yes, shifra. That was the other word. Well, the other video that I saw that I hadn't really properly translated that one. But right, let's not go over there. Sorry, my ADHD is jumping back and forth. It's not that. It's just that this is just a big project. So excuse me, I need to take my time. I will be slow so that I don't do these small errors that are truly unnecessary. But there is a lot of information to process. So bear with me. Okay. But yes, fee. Fee is where we get the word, very many words, but also the big word like philosophy. Philosophy cannot be explained using Greek, unfortunately. We say that, but it really can't, because philos and sophia are two different words, and they pertain to have two different other semantics. Loving wisdom has nothing to do with what philosophy really means. Philosophy is an act of critical judgment, of discernment. It's an act of truth. It's a playing of ideas so that you can discern ideas and see the truth. That was the purpose of philosophy back in the old days, to find the truth of things. And the truth is the root, right? The root, to find the root. So the root is the truth. But if we further develop this word or go into deeper into this word, root, yes, okay, the root. Uh, okay, this means literally to protect the life. This must be protected, and this also means the living life. Ru, it's a ru. So the ru. Going back to the ra sound. Ru. Ru is your your spark. The spark of life is the truth of life. It is the root. Okay, but now we really digressed. Sorry, but this is, well, all these things are tied. But philosophy began here. Indeed, it began from lo sho, philosoph, philosophy, and philosoph, which means we get a lot of ideas here, but it means pretty much play with ideas so that you can begin seeing. But we also have other words. We find also thread. So this also means thought, or just the actual thread itself, and also a beginning, film, film, the beginning. And then you have fo, which is to speak or force itself. And then you have fu, which is power, because you get fu chi. So yes, fu chi. Okay, and then you get fire, fur, fur, and then you have put in fote, and then you have fund, and so insert initiation, but also the end. So, but here fi you have the beginning, and fu you have the end. which also pertains to their logic. That E was always the highest, so thus the beginning, and U was the lowest, thus the end. And fu is that which is not aligned with these beautiful ones. Fu is not, in this instance, this is an insult and of the throat. So it's an energetic release. We probably have some other words that are not pertaining to insults, but I think that they are. Yes, but this is not where we get the F, the English F word from, because the English F word comes actually from the Scandinavians, and that means to capture. Or fucke deg, or fucke deg, well, to F you means to capture you in Scandinavian. Yes. Yes. And oh, by the way, I haven't even given you any of my well, my indication that I can speak these other languages. But yes, so let me introduce myself in these other languages that I speak. Uh, Përshëndetje, unë kam emrin Alban, dhe në këto video i këqyri si u zhvillu gjuha jon nga koha lasht deri tani. That was the Albanian. Hei, jeg heter Alban. Jeg driver og forsker litt på språk og felles språkutvikling, og hvordan vi kom hit hvor vi er nå. Hej, mitt namn är Alban. Jag pratar svenska. Så jag kan prata svenska också. Och ja, ich kan prata dansk. Så jag kan också prata dansk. And ich verstehe sie Deutsch. Und ich verstehe sie Deutsch. Ja. Okay. So now we have that in there too. Because I'm just showing you again that I have all the journey of our development inside of me. Because I am so privileged to speak all these languages. Okay, so semantic network, just a little bit of going a bit around here. So far, more moral agency. These are these themes. These are the semantic themes that we find within this sound cluster. So moral agency, beginning, belief, trust, thought, thread, linkage, speech as force or force as speech, because there is it requires some energy to speak. We see that in kids, in toddlers too. And then we have fu, power, fire, input, insertion, end, and then fu, breach, insult, response. Yes. So cross-linguistic parallels, Latin, fatum, fides, for fari. So for fari is exactly the same as we in Kosovo speak and use today. It's just that we have an L there. So we say fol, fali. Well, right, with the accent, with the dialect in Macedonia, fali. I wouldn't, or even in Montenegro, it wouldn't surprise me if we find that there. Okay. And then we have these, of course, you can just look at. And then we continue on. So you can just see how this leads to speech and belief and action and consequence. We're just looking at the development. And then this is a small summary, but we will go on with a bit more slides and then we'll end this. And then we'll go on with more because we haven't begun. We have the whole alphabet to go through. So we have a lot to go through. And we have pretty much, I have pretty much deciphered this whole thing. So I'm, well, not the whole thing yet. And please, I am not, I do not have all the answers. This is a journey. So yes, so don't judge me if I'm incorrect somewhere. Summary and interpretation. The FAFU cluster encodes a moral linguistic circuit, causality and consequence, belief, speech, and energetic force, thread of thought becoming impact. It provides insight into how early languages connect voice, action, and ethics. Indeed. And now we will see how it did that. Again, we'll just see, this is just the first one, the Albanian ones, and then we'll see the Greek one. Femi, Femi, to speak, I say, Femi, Fami, right? Now we're going back there, but this is pretty much the same thing. Fas, Faos, I don't know, Faos, that is light. I don't know. I mean, I do know, but Faos, I think I have deciphered this somewhere else. I think so, but I'm not sure. I have to look at this one again. I've seen this somewhere else where I've deciphered this as being with where somewhere else. But Femi is here, and Pharma, which means the speech or what has been said, Pharma. And yes, in Greek, beef, fa becomes voice declaration and an utterance of faith or truth, speech as moral or metaphysical act. Okay. And yes, and it goes on. And then we have the Latin ones, fatum, fatum, fat. Well, the Albanian ones is just fat. You just even remove this one. So Albanian has kept the monosyllables, and everyone else has moved on. Well, they haven't moved on; they have just made new words because they have developed naturally. Fari, to speak, also again, fas, divine law. Okay, right. See, here we go. Now we're suddenly getting into now we're getting into speech, and this how this becomes cosmically loaded. To speak, to seal fate, law, fate, religion, encoded through vocal expression, and then you have confessio, fescio, right? Fesh, fesh. So they were speaking, and they are using the same root as the Albanian people in the northern part used today. That is the Geg people. Okay, so sorry, I'm just super passionate here because um, yes, people, we're not aware of this, and it is very stupid that we're not. It is very obvious, and yes, so the Germanic Norse, faran, to travel, fa, a feud, fault again, and fair, fair, just, yes, fair, fair. So far and fa, they were from fu, right? Fu, fa, and and all these other words. Fa becomes a thread of journey, judgment, and justice for pretty much everyone. And in English, fault, forgive, fate, fair, fable. Fair related words split along two axes, moral agency and speech storytelling. And that was it. And there is probably much, much more to say surrounding this sound cluster, but I will keep it a little bit shorter for now because I need to redo some of the other ones because I've discovered so much more, especially in the chi one, because the chi one would become the G in the Indo-European, well, in Europe, which would give us the phonetic cluster of ja, je, ji, ju, ju. Right. So here we go, guys. We are really discovering so much now that I'm overloaded with work. But it is my pleasure. It truly is. I'm having the time of my life. Really, I am. So thank you. Thank you for joining me. And have a lovely day or evening, wherever you are. Cheers.